Mike Bond, joined today by Bellator President Scott Coker. We are doing a kind of year-end review here and look ahead to 2022 as we kind of turn the calendar here. And Scott, I mean, another great year for you guys in 2021. When I say this past year, what kind of comes to mind? Obviously, you guys, had the transition to Showtime. Despite the pandemic going on, I think you did the most events in the most countries out of any major organization. So you kind of did travel around a bit. What kind of stands out to you when you think of the past year?
I tell you, doing these fights in a closed environment the way we did it for a year was really tough. And the Mohegan Sun, they've been great partners, but there's nothing like having a full audience in the building. So when we got back to throwing fights in LA, and it all started to me with the AJ fight versus Pitbull. That was like a rebirth of Bellator again, starting to feel back like it used to, and having a crowd and people cheering, and just the audience was so passionate, and it was a big fight, big promotion. That really started off. Then we just started. I felt like we just got on a roll from there, and it was like the San Jose fight, the Phoenix fight. We did London with MVP fighting Lima. We did Ireland, and we did Moscow, the big fight with Fedor. We've been waiting to do that for 5 years. So the first 6 months, I think we did what we had to do, what we could do, and but the last half of the year, I think we just crushed it. And I'm really looking forward to 22 and getting back on the road and just started swinging for the fences again.
For sure. So I'll throw a couple stats your way on 2021, and you can tell me if you have any reaction of any sort to them. You guys did 199 fights. You had 4 new champions. Of those 199 fights, you had 48 underdog winners, which is the highest percentage of underdogs you've had in terms of ballots with the number of fights you put on. And then you only had 18 fighters miss weight, which is the lowest number you guys have had for the number of fights you put on. So any of those resonate with you, or any thoughts to any of those?
I just want to know who's taking all these stats. That's what I want to know, because
this is me.
It's pretty impressive. Somebody, oh, you are. That's
Yeah.
unbelievable. I mean, I didn't even know that. So I mean, listen, I think for the time, let's talk about the check-in for the weights, right? Because weigh-ins, obviously, and making weight is so important in the sport. When the fighter gets there on Sunday, we start checking their weight on Sunday, and they monitor it all week. We have an amazing staff that does that. Our operations team is dynamite, and so I think they've been pretty good about like you said, the best so far of making weight percentage wise, and that's really I think a testament to the fighters being professional and signing a contract and making the weight. But as you know, sometimes things happen, and but our guys are able to monitor it properly throughout the week, and I think they do a really good job of making sure that everybody stays on track.
Definitely. And before we kind of close the book on 2021 there and start talking about next year, the Showtime deal, I mean, how do you feel about that transition particularly, and how you guys have changed production or any of these minor things that go on to actually putting on the events, whether it's in-house or on the broadcast?
Honestly, I just feel like it's like going back home again. I mean, that's where I started with my MMA television deal. We had 1 year on Access TV, and then we bought Pro Elite back in 2008, and then 2009 we were doing fights on Showtime by ourselves, and meaning Strikeforce only. Before that, we had in 2008, I think we did Shamrock versus Kung Lee, and I think we did the Phil Baroni fight with Shamrock. Those were co-promotions with Pro Elite at the time. But once we took over the company, we ended up back on Showtime and some CBS dates. So to me, it's the same guys like we talked about before. Is the senior executive producer there is still David Dinkins. Chris de Blasio, the gentleman I worked with back in the Strikeforce days, is still running the communications department. Now he's vice president or president now, actually SVP, I think. So the titles have gone up, but really it's the same crew that does all their boxing, and they've continued to do MMA, and they're very knowledgeable. They're very smart, and they're very experienced in the fight business. So to me, it was just like a reunion, and then you just add our staff on top of that, and now you have a dynamite team. And I think if you watch our shows, they change a little bit, not a lot. I really like the features that they've been coming out with that I think looks very much a Showtime-esque, features that they put in their boxing, and I've been really enjoying that. I think the show looks amazing, and I think it's something that we're really proud of, is putting out a product that really resonates with the fans and has high production value, like it does, right now.
Yeah, and I'll ask kind of on that front here in Canada, all the events stream on YouTube, your guys' YouTube channel, which for me is awesome. And I think it's the most accessible the product has been here in Canada in a long time. Are you happy with, keeping that direction, or are you guys discussing at all doing a television deal of any sort here in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it a couple of times actually, and I think we will end up with a television deal of some kind. But right now, we're happy with the way things are going. YouTube's been a great partner on certain territories for us, and it seems to be working, and I think the fans enjoy it.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I love that as well. So we'll obviously keep tabs going forward on that. And your last fight of the year was obviously an incredible one. Sergio Pettis gets that unbelievable come from behind knockout. Spoiler alert here, it is our MMA Junkie knockout of the year, as we voted on. I actually talked to Sergio earlier today, and obviously he was very grateful to get that award. And, last year, AJ McKee had our submission of the year. So obviously you guys are having some really great moments coming out of, these fights that you're putting on. But yeah, just that moment by Sergio, obviously a huge one for you guys. And as we talk about 2022, perfectly sets the table going into what you guys announced as well, which is the Bantamweight Grand Prix. Any updates on that as far as when we could have a start on that? Have you guys decided on bracket pairings? Anything you want to share on that front?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's nothing confirmed on the start date. I can give you like a general idea. Sometime in March, possibly, is what we're thinking about. The pairings have not been confirmed. We're still bouncing it around internally. There's been a lot of rumors out there, but there's nothing solid yet. So we'll figure all that out in the next 2 weeks, and then we're going to get it on, because I'm really excited about this tournament. When you saw, or when we all watched the Horiguchi fight against Pettis, well, you talk about a level of fighting at a super high level, and everybody in this tournament, to me, is at that level. So you're going to see 8 amazing, fighters in the bantamweight division making up this tournament. That I think that it's going to be a toss-up. I can tell you who's going to win right now. When I look at all the guys that are in there, and there's so many interesting matchups that could happen, maybe early on or maybe later. But I'm really, really, really pumped about this tournament, because we have 8 just killers that are waiting to get at each other, and I think the preview was the Horiguchi versus Pettis fight was just it was just amazing, and just really surreal watching that thing unfold, the way that he came back with that spinning back fist. It was a crescent kick to a spinning back fist. That's what really surprised me, because sometimes you'll see a spinning back kick or a wheel kick to spinning back fist, but I've never seen a crescent kick spinning back fist knockout like that. And Horiguchi was winning, to me, the whole fight up to that point. And then after the fight, Duke Rufus sent me a video of them specifically working on that technique over and over and over and over. He goes, I just wanted to let you know, this is not something that we didn't train for. This is something that was in the arsenal, and he didn't get lucky. This has been, we've been training for this. So here's the proof. And he sent me this link. And sure enough, man, there was Pettis doing spinning back fists and setting it up, and it worked beautifully.
Yeah, it was such an impressive knockout. And obviously, he's the champion going into this tournament. I talked to him, like I said earlier today, and he said he's open to whatever kind of matchups you guys want to do, whether it's, if you want to do a Horiguchi rematch right off the bat, or put them on opposite sides of the bracket to try to work towards that. He seemed to open to everything. But when you're putting this together, do you talk to him specifically, since he is the champion, and say, is there any matchup you prefer, or you guys just do your work and then send him a bout agreement?
No, we don't. I don't think in any tournament we've sat down with a fighter and said, hey, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? Basically, it's like, what are the matchups that we feel, meaning Bellator and our fight team and myself, what do we feel the fans want to see? And then, we kind of put our feelers out there a little bit here and there. and then we ultimately come up with a fight card, a tournament brackets and the fight matchups that way. But yeah, we don't really sit down with the fighter because it's sometimes it's too emotional. If you get the cornermen and the trainers in there, then it just takes a whole different turn. It's just I like the way we've been doing it.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem to be bothered by that process either way. So that sounds good. And actually, we do like our 2022 predictions article. And I predicted for this coming year that I think this is going to be your best Grand Prix to date. And I think that featherweight one's going to be hard to top because it all went so seamlessly. And we got the final we were kind of thinking we were going to get in McKee versus Pitbull. But I think this one has some really good chances to kind of set the bar once again. So I'm really excited for when that starts. But as far as, fights that are on the books, of course, you guys begin the year on January 29th in Phoenix with Ryan Bader, Valentin Moldavsky for the unified heavyweight championship. How important of a fight is this for Ryan Bader? I mean, he obviously lost his light heavyweight title. He's going back up to heavyweight, fighting a guy who's been nothing short of on a roll in your organization so far in Moldavsky. So do you feel like this is a really kind of, I won't call it do or die, but a really important fight for Bader to kind of maintain that he's still that top tier championship level guy?
Yeah, and I feel like Ryan is top tier. He's right up there. The issue for Ryan has been we've just been adding to our roster, and our roster is growing. And this is the healthiest, best roster we've ever had in Bellator. And we just keep signing other guys or developing other guys to come in and fight him. And it's been tough for Ryan. But I will say this: Ryan at heavyweight to me has a speed advantage. And whereas at light heavyweight, he didn't have that, the speed advantage with his two fights that he lost. So let's see what happens. But Moldavsky is no joke, man. This guy is big. He's strong. He is a heavy puncher. He's going to come and try to instill his will on Ryan. And to me, it's like it's going to be speed versus power. And that's what I think is going to unfold here. If Ryan stays on his toes and keeps moving and takes him down and controls him and basically outworks him and outspeeds, and speed is going to be key here, I think he'll do very well. And Moldavsky is going to be looking to knock him out, and so he's going to be fighting a different kind of fight. I think he's slower than Ryan, but he's a heavy puncher, and if he connects, I think it's going to be trouble. But that's my prediction of the fight is. Speed versus power. It's going to be the bull versus the matador.
Yeah, really interesting heavyweight fight. And I'm curious, obviously, Ryan was the champ not long ago. How do you feel about the champ thing right now? Actually, I predicted in my column coming into 2021 that there would be no double champions in any major organization by the end of the year, which crazy enough came true with, Patricio losing, Bader losing, and then over in the UFC, Amanda Nunes losing. But are you still warm to that? Do you feel like it's just kind of circumstantial if it makes sense for a certain guy, or do you feel like it's best to kind of keep people in their own lane? You become the champion, you kind of just defend there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a case by case basis, in my opinion. And Ryan did get hung up, and he did, and Pitbull got hung up because I think COVID had a lot to do with it. And we were shut down for so many months. We had to catch up. We started having to catch up fighters to fight, and then it became a volume issue. What I mean by that is a volume of how many fighters we had to fight to get them in the queue and get them going again. And then I have these two guys that are champ, but we didn't really have the ability to really fight them in the different weight classes because of the injuries or the COVID. It's unfortunate, but I think we'll just look at it on a case-by-case basis and make decisions, accordingly.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And then moving on to your second main event of the year, you guys are going back to Dublin in February 25th, Gegard Mousasi versus Austin Vanderford. Just give your thoughts on that fight. I know you guys had obviously kind of penciled Austin as the next guy when he faced off with Mousasi in the cage after that win over John Salter. I guess just give me your feel on this fight and why you thought it was a good fit to do this one in Dublin.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to have a good main event for Dublin, and we felt that this would be something that we could bring the fans in Ireland a big fight with Gegard, who's been a superstar in the sport for how long, and he's our champ. We needed to fight him. We could have fought him here too, but we said, hey, Let's do it in Ireland, and let's give the fans a great fight. Which really happy that this fight ended up there, and that's close to Gegard's home. Austin's got to travel a little bit, but Austin is a guy that we have a lot of high hopes for. I think that he's definitely a grinder. He's out there working really hard. Overcame some injuries, but it's his time. I mean, it's this, and what I mean by it's his time, it's his time to get the shot. And so let's see how well he can do with a seasoned veteran. That's just to me, one of the best talents out there at 185. And when you look at the rankings, I mean, he's got to be number one or two, or number one or number two in that division, in my opinion. And I'm talking about from all leagues combined. So, Gegard could beat anybody on any given day, as far as I'm concerned. And I think Austin's going to have his hands full. But if you're going to test yourself, why not go test yourself against one of the world's best? And he's going to have his opportunity in Dublin at the end of next month.
For sure. And yeah, I guess on the point of Gegard, I mean, what's your feel on him right now? I mean, he's a guy that, like you said, when he's on his game, he's, at worst, top 3, top 2 middleweights in the entire world, any organization. But he seems like he sometimes has those moments where, I don't know if he's just not that into it mentally, or he's brought up retirement a few times over the past few years. Does he feel like he still has that energy to keep doing this for quite a while? Or what's kind of your read on him going into this fight?
Yeah, I think he's into it. I think he's training hard, and we had a nice talk actually a couple of fights ago, and he's definitely into it. And I think fighters, when they're tired or run down or after fights, they say a few things, and but he took that right back, and he's ready to go, and he wants to fight for years to come. So I think the one thing that we'd like to do is keep him busier this year than we have in the past. And again, I don't mean to use COVID or all these things that happened where we got bottlenecked, but this year we're not going to have that issue, because if you think about it, last year we started doing fights, what I want to say in July. No, June. Was it June or July?
I think it was July.
But so we had a lot of fights to catch up, believe me, over the last 12 months. We're not in that situation now, because now we're going to start fights in January, and we'll have a whole year, and we'll be able to keep Gegard busy. And I think that he's a fighter that needs to fight a bit more frequently than he has in the past, and that's going to be something that we want to do as well. So Gegard, if you're listening, which I'm sure you are, get ready. You're going to be busy this year, buddy.
There you go. I completely agree with everything you said. When he's consistent, it seems like that's when he's in his best form, for sure. And you mentioned the catch-up. Are you planning, is it still going to be like roughly 18 shows this year, or what are you guys kind of looking at number-wise in terms of events?
Yeah, it'll be 18 to 20 fights this year.
Okay, perfect. That'll be awesome. And going into, some matchups that I guess we kind of expect but aren't on the books or anything, do you have any idea when you're going to do wrap up the ongoing Grand Prix at 205 and do the Vadim Nemkov versus Corey Anderson fight?
Yeah, so we're looking at that fight to happen sometime in, let's say, late February, early March, something like that. And we're trying to lock down the date right now. But we do want to get that light heavyweight tournament finished and have that fight. And both fighters feel like that's a very good time frame. So we'll probably have some announcements coming up here in the next couple of weeks, or maybe the next 7 days, that we'll kind of lay out the schedule of that fight.
Perfect. And just give me a read on that a little bit. I mean, is this that 205 Grand Prix, like, is this a final maybe you thought was going to be a potentially strong option coming in? Obviously, we had the Anthony Johnson fallout and everything, but in terms of how this thing is played out, are you pretty happy with the final result here?
Yeah, I mean, listen, both those guys are amazing, and to me, it's like these tournaments, you never know what's going to happen. And to me, I always felt like in tournaments like this, hey, let the best man win. And both of them are going to be fighting, for $1 million prize money. So there's a lot to fight for, a lot to be, to really come out and bring it. So it'll be a nice payday for those guys. And, I think that winning that light heavyweight tournament is quite an accomplishment with considering with the 8 athletes that we had to start with that tournament, because that was quite the gauntlet to get through.
Yeah, it was a great tournament for sure, and I can't wait to see how this one plays out. I think, I know you've made the strong argument that your light heavyweight division is as good or better than anyone out there, and I think if Vadim wins this fight too, that really puts kind of the exclamation mark on it, because you look at his resume, if he's able to beat Corey Anderson too, it'd be really, really damn impressive.
Yeah, and look at Corey's accomplishments, whether when he was at the UFC or here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is a hell of a fighter, man, and really, in his first tournament fight against Yaz, one thing I saw about him that I really was impressed with was he was kind of getting, kind of behind the eight ball after that first round, right? And I said, oh, he might lose this fight, but he started digging back and started coming back and just start grinding it out, start hitting this guy. I mean, he started getting, like his shots in. And then eventually, stopping I think the fight stopped in the third round. I can't remember exactly, but my point is, like, he could have easily gave up, right? But he said, no, I'm not giving. I'm gonna. This is my fight. And that was a tough guy, that first fight. So then he fought Ryan Bader. It was first round KO. And then now he's going to fight, a tough champion. And when I think about both those guys, I mean, to me, that's number 1 and 2 in the world, right there. In my opinion, I mean, look at their accomplishments and looking at their records and who they've beaten, and basically, who's been out there in the last year. I clearly think that's number 1 and 2. And when I think about our 145 division in featherweight, it's a healthy division for us. Got a lot of great fights coming up. I think we have the best 145-pound fighter in the world. I don't think anybody beats him out there in any league. And then I think we have the best bantamweight division in the planet, where those 8 guys are just, it's not just, Pettis and Horiguchi. I'm talking about studs. Here's a kid that don't blink, man, because this guy is going to be phenomenal. And, he's just getting to his own right now. And then you have Magomedov, who, has, had some great victories in his past. But I'm sure when you mix all these guys up and we have this tournament that we're going to bust out in Horiguchi, and it's just going to be amazing. So when you look at our roster, I think bantamweight, best division in MMA period. 145, we have the best fighter. 205, and Gegard, I think on any given day he can beat anybody. And so this roster is super healthy right now, and we're really excited about putting some of these matchups together. In 22.
Yeah, so you obviously must be really happy with how the roster, like you said, is playing out, because I think we discussed this last year when we did kind of this similar interview, and it seemed like we were right on the cusp of that, like these guys really flourishing into their own. And it seems like over this past year, we've seen the maximization of their talent. Some of these fights play out that have been important in establishing the pecking order and everything. And like you said, I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. Like, some of these things just take time, right? You need things to fully flesh out. Yep. And you've had the guys that, you signed or brought up as prospects, and they're kind of really starting to come into their own. And we're seeing the end result, or the more formed result of what you guys have been putting so much work into, right?
Yeah, I'm really excited about today's Aaron Pico. Let's put it that way. Really excited about Aaron. Really excited about Usman Nurmagomedov.
Yep.
Those are 2 guys that I'm really, really excited about. And when it comes time to star identification, start building, it takes time. And I think that's something we do better than anybody else. But to build a fighter's career, it takes a good 3-4 years. I mean, look how long it's taken AJ to get to this point, right? Now he's the champ, and he's about to fight a whole bunch of, let's say, fights that could take him to the next level. But it's taken us 5 years to get to this point with AJ, maybe even 6. So these fighters that are coming in with no pro fights, it's not a quick process. It is really a very grueling, multi-year. Maybe they can get there in 4 years instead of 5 years, or it takes longer. But Aaron Pico is a guy that we started working with, I want to say, in 2015. So 7 years with Pico. It's like these take time, and take time to flourish and nurture. And now we have a bunch of guys that we feel really good about. I think we're going to see some good development in these young athletes in 22.
Yeah, some really, really great talent out there. And since you mentioned him a few times in the past few minutes, AJ McKee What's the plan for him? Like, it's hard to tell. I know he'd thrown out doing the Patricio rematch, maybe at 155. Obviously, he gave up that belt. What's kind of the gauge? Are you guys wanting to do that immediate rematch, or are you maybe thinking there's another option out there for AJ's first title defense?
Well, we're gonna evaluate that probably here in the next couple of days, because as the clock turns to midnight, we run to January 1st. We definitely want to have some answers in that first week of January for all these guys. But I'm not quite ready to kind of explain the thoughts on that. But we do want to get him busy as soon as possible here in 22.
Yeah, of course. Was there any discussion of him moving to 55, or is it mainly being you want him to focus on this division?
Well, you know what? I think that he would probably like to do both,
Hmm.
but I think his next fight should be at 45, and whether it's a rematch or fighting one of the other guys. I mean, that's something that we're still talking internally. It just hasn't been decided yet.
Okay. And I know, last thing on AJ, I know he's talked in a lot of different interviews about kind of his contract status and things like that. Is there still anything to smooth over there, or are you confident that he's going to be with Bellator for the long term?
Yeah, I mean, I don't I don't want to get into his contract status, like
Hmm.
exactly what it is, but you know, we've been together a long time. I think we're going to be together for a lot longer periods of time here, and I look forward to promoting him for many years to come.
Perfect. Good enough. And on to Patricky Pitbull, obviously one of the newest champions you have at 155. You guys finally have that division rolling again and stuff. Do you have any idea what things could look like for him for his first title defense? I don't know if the AJ thing maybe fits into that, but just to have a champion at 155 again, who, for all intents and purposes, wants to be active, and you can kind of start planning more thoroughly for that division without Patricio being in the tournament and all
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, we were talking about Patricky fighting sometime in February, March, or early or late February, but that didn't work out. I think that he's still working on a couple of things or something. I'm not sure what happened, but they told me he was not available. So as soon as he's available, whether it's March or April, whatever, we'll definitely get him back in there.
Perfect. And last male champion to ask you about Yaroslav Amosov, ridiculously talented, 26-0, became your champion. Great performance against Douglas
Mhm.
Lima. I think you had mentioned before that you're probably looking at MVP for his first title defense. Is that still what you guys are leaning towards, or
Yep.
maybe is someone else lingering out there?
No, we are in the process of putting that fight together now with him and MVP to fight in London at some point early next year.
That's fun. So back to London, MVP will get another hometown fight there. That should be a lot of fun, kind of the champion going into enemy territory a little bit, right?
Yeah, and honestly, it's like, I know MVP was kind of back and forth. Do I want to fight Lima again? Do I want to fight Amosov? And then we said, hey, just go think about it. Our opinion as a company is like, look, you want to take the next step. You want to go fight for the belt now. This is your time. If you don't do it now, when are you going to do it?
Hmm.
And then you could come back and fight Lima again, in the future. So to me, it's the right fight to put together. I think it'll happen in the second quarter. It will be in London, and it'll be a massive fight over there because he's such a big star, and believe me, a lot of people are saying, well, Amosov is so good, and he is that good, and that's why his record's undefeated. But MVP has a very unique style, and he's very hard to hit to catch, and it's going to be interesting to see how Amosov handles that, because he's fighting like a very awkward karate style combatant, and it's not like your normal MMA fighter that's just very straightforward, maybe a little bit more linear. He's doing a lot of crazy stuff, and that's why people love him. But that fight will happen at some point in 22 for sure.
Sweet. I'm excited for that one, most definitely. And on the women's side, obviously, Chris Cyborg had a title defense recently. Is Kat Zingano going to seemingly be the next one, or do you think maybe Kat needs another fight before fighting for the belts? Or
No, I mean, Kat has reached out and wants to fight Cyborg, so I think our inclination is to put that fight together. The exact dates, like we're gonna have multiple fights in February, multiple fights in March, multiple fights in April, multiple fights in May. So we're gonna start lining these big fights up, and we're gonna start knocking them off.
Perfect. And since we're talking about that division, any updates you can share on discussions with Kayla Harrison or her team? I know she was at the event, and it seems like her situation is yet to be figured out, and she's still kind of a free agent. So I guess if you did talk to her team, how did that go, and how do you feel about the potential of signing her at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we had a really good conversation with her. She's a sweet girl. She is one hell of a fighter, and I think really for her to take her career to the next level, she's got to, come fight Cyborg or go to the UFC and fight Amanda Nunez or, is it Pena? Yeah, or
Yeah,
Pena.
Julian
So
Pena.
I think that, yeah. So she's, I think that's got to be the next step. Now, I know we're all still talking, nothing signed. It's like I think she's still trying to, vet the offers and see where she wants to go. But I'm not sure what she's going to do. But to me, it just seems natural that if you want to test yourself, you're going to have to make a move.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that would be such a big fight for you guys with Cyborg. And, I know Kayla's saying a lot of things. I want to be considered, like the GOAT and all that. But I think, especially with Nunez losing, there's no better way to get that credibility than beating Cyborg, who has obviously controlled that division for, well over a decade at this point. So, yeah, I'd love to see that
Yeah,
one. That'd be great.
yeah. And you know what? People talk about the GOAT and is this girl the GOAT because she beat Amanda Nunez? And it's like, come on. Chris Cyborg has been doing this for how long? If you look at her body of work over the last 16 years, nobody has done more, in this sport, in the cage fighting than this girl. So let's give her the proper credit that she's due.
Yeah, just could not agree more with that. And also on the women's side, where do you think stand with Juliana Velasquez? Are you hoping to have her back soon? What's kind of the update with her? I assume Liz Carmouche is still the front runner at that division.
Yes, and that's something that I believe that fight will happen in April. I think that's when we were told that she'll be ready to go. And I'm talking about Velasquez. So
Hmm.
as soon as she's ready, we'll get her back in there. But I think April is the date for those. So all of our champions and the launch of the tournament, the finals of our light heavyweight tournament, all these fights, the MVP fight, you know, the Juliana Velasquez fight, Cyborg fighting again against Ken. All these fights will happen. Let's say between January and I want to say April. It's kind of what we're shooting for.
Damn, that's going to be a very fun start to the year then. And sticking with that division, what's the latest with Alimale McFarland? We obviously didn't see her fight at all in 2021. Have you been talking with her? What's kind of where's her mind at right now?
Yeah, I mean, we had been talking to her, and she's coming off of a surgery, so she's just been recovering and rehabilitating. So she's been going through a lot of treatment on her surgery. I think it's on her knee or something like that. But I talked to her probably 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. She feels that she'll be ready sometime in April or May.
Sweet, that'll be great to see her back. And then I guess just to kind of close it out, I'll give you some rapid fire on a couple other names here that came across my mind. And you'd mentioned him earlier, Aaron Pico. Like you said, his development has came along together great. It's an interesting scenario with him and AJ McKee, though, right? Because they're like friends and they used to be longtime training
Right.
partners, and they've kind of said they don't want to fight each other. So obviously, that's not something
Mhm.
you're having to deal with, right now. But is that something you kind of think about when you're booking Aaron? Like, do you put him against the number one contender if he's not keen to fight the champion? Like, how does that kind of complicate how you matchmake his career?
I mean, they obviously feel a certain way towards each other, which I totally respect. And we just haven't had that conversation at a certain level. And what I mean by that is, I'm not sitting down with Aaron and saying, "Well, Aaron, do you want to do this? And if you do that, and if you get to that number one spot, AJ is going to be there, or do you want to be the champ?" None of those conversations have happened. I mean, to me, it's like let Aaron fight, keep fighting, keep doing his thing. And then if he gets to that point, then we'll have a conversation with him. But it's very clear they don't want to fight each other. But at some point, if Aaron can get to that point, then we'll probably have to have that conversation with him.
Yeah, that's fair. Just cross that bridge when you come to it, I guess.
Exactly, because this sport is so crazy. You never know, right?
Yeah.
It could look perfectly lined up, and then one thing happens, and then then you're heading a different direction. So I feel like when that bridge is ready to have that conversation or have that cross the bridge, conversation needs to happen, then we'll have it at that time.
Most definitely. And we'd mentioned him a little bit earlier, but Anthony Johnson, do you have any update on his health status? Is he getting any closer to being able to return? Where do things stand with him?
I'll tell you, I talked to him about a week ago, and we had a very good conversation. I'm so glad I gave him a call, and I really like the guy, and but really, it's like, without getting into too much of his medical condition, it's like he's got to worry about just being healthy. First, fighting will always be there. And then that's what I told him. I said, look, man, just keep doing what you're doing. Keep listening to the doctors. Just keep at it. We're going to be here. We're not going anywhere. And if you get cleared at some point, we'll definitely have you back. But I think he has a little ways to go, to be honest. And we're going to be there, rooting him on. But until he gets clearance, I don't even look at this like, he's going to be fighting in 6 months or 4 months or 8 months. Let him take his time. Let him, get healthy. And then when he gets healthy, then we can have a conversation. And if it's a year from now or 18 months from now or 6 months from now, then we'll get at it. But until then, he's got to heal up and just get healthy, because there's so much more in life than just fighting. And I want him to have a long, healthy life, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, those are great words. Well, that's it's unfortunate, it's not something maybe more promising, but it seems like you guys are, standing there right beside him. So that's great news. They're obviously prioritizing his health, and we know that's all comes first. So I appreciate that approach very much. And the guy who was supposed to fight, Yoel Romero, obviously that fight didn't come together. Put him against Phil Davis. The debut didn't go his way. Where are your feelings on Yoel Romero after that fight with Phil Davis, and what do you kind of see as the future for him? Do you want him to stay at 205? I know you had mentioned him maybe as a potential option for Mousasi sometime down the line. Would you like to see him go down to 185? What's kind of your vibes on Yoel going into 2022?
I'll tell you, we've had conversations on both those topics, him going down to 85. And he says he'll do whatever. Personally, I think he'd like to stay at 205 and fight there. But I think him and Gegard should fight at some point, whether it's at 185 or a super fight at 205. But let's also see how this tournament unfolds and unwinds, and who's the champ, and let's get him some fights, contender fights in between. Let's say as the light heavyweight the finals are going down toward the path of finishing. Let's get him a couple fights and see if he can get back into contention. As far as his weight class, that's something that we'll reach out to him maybe in the next week and see what he's thinking. But I believe he's gonna want to stay at 205.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. And a former opponent of his that he fought a few years ago, Lyoto Machida, I'm curious to know what's going on with him. Obviously, he turns 44 in May. It's been 3 losses in a row, but obviously to the absolute best of the best. What's kind of the relationship with Lyoto? Has he reached out about wanting to fight? What's the deal with him?
Oh, yeah, he wants to fight, and we're going to get him busy again. And, he's another fighter that probably will fight sometime March, April. But we want to get all of our big stars fighting between now and April. And, Lyoto, like you said, he's had some losses, but, he's went through a gauntlet of just killers. And, it didn't work out for him. But we still feel like he's got some gas left in the tank. And, he's done so much for the sport. To me, he's a legend. And we're going to let him, finish it on his terms.
That's great to hear. Yeah, absolute legend, and that dude has never taken an easy fight, going back to even his very, very early career days. Okay, so 3 more, and then I'll let you get out of here. Dillon Danis. Is there any plans for him to fight in 2022? I know you've been asking for him for a long time, but he's kind of resurfaced a bit. I saw him do an interview with Ariel Helwani, and it seems like maybe his mind is a little bit more geared towards fighting. What can you say about Dillon?
I would say this: if Dillon is ready to compete and fight at the level he needs to compete at here in Bellator, then give us a call and let's put him in and let's get you back. Last year I think he was plagued with injuries, and it really, hurt his getting back into the cage in 21 this year. But hopefully we'll get him back next year. We would love to have Dillon back, but he's gonna have to do his part too. And if he can get to that point where he can fight at this level, then let's put him in.
Yeah, definitely. No, that all makes sense. Seems like it's kind of just on him at this point. You guys are right there, ready to give him the platform, right?
Yeah, we're here. Listen, we're doing fights twice a month now, so we're gonna have opportunities to fight you. It's just that, are you ready, and are you ready to step in, and this is not easy, right? This is not an easy sport. This is something that's gonna take a lot out of you, and the time commitment. Are you ready to do that? And if he is, and he gets in shape at that level, and he can fight at a certain, like, let's say, certain weight class that we need him to fight, we could be a little flexible. Even if he is having a hard time making weight, we could fight him in the next weight class, or it's we'll be flexible, but we'll give him an opportunity to start his comeback once he's ready.
Yep, totally fair. And I want to ask you about someone who's not on your roster currently, but someone that we did talk about this time last year. You absolutely sniped the prediction of Jake Paul knocking out Ben Askren, and I know that turned into a whole thing, and he's obviously fought a few more times this year. I'm just curious, though. He recently said before this last Woodley fight that he is interested in doing an MMA fight at one point, and he's even reached out to Javier Mendez to do some training at AKA, which I know is right in your backyard, and you have that relationship with that team. Have you had any discussions like stemming off these comments? And obviously there's the Showtime relationship, all those things. What do you kind of think about where Jake Paul is right now and the potential of him fighting for MMA? It seems like Bellator would be a good fit if so.
I'll tell you, I said when the Paul brothers came into the combat sports, let's say business, they fought, whoever they fought, and then, it's like they people were questioning their ability. But I always said, look, these guys are real athletes, and they're young, they work hard, they're grinding it out, they're putting in the work. You can't take that away from them, and they're getting better and better and better. And what you saw with Woodley, that's a lot of hard work to get to that point tonight. I've never seen Woodley get knocked out like that, right? And so, is it just boxing? Yes. So I always said, look, man, don't underestimate these guys. And this was a year and a half ago. We met with Logan 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. And I asked him then, look, I know you were a high school wrestler from Ohio. If you want to come to MMA, please let us know when we can have. So we've always had like these conversations. Jake now being with Showtime and having these fights, and there's a certain familiarity between him, his manager, and let's say Steven or myself. Look, if you want to come to MMA, we would gladly do it. And think about this. He's not saying, I'm going to go train here. He's going to come to the best gym on the planet, or one of the best gyms on the planet, where Khabib is, Daniel Cormier still training there, Cain Velasquez is training there now, or actually teaching there now. And he's going to go into an environment that he's going to flourish. And he has a wrestling background already. He has a great striking, obviously. You've seen it. And so this guy's just going to get better and better and better, right? So the days of him fighting, basketball players or whatever, those days are over. He wants to do it. The only thing I will say is this. My understanding is he wants to get like 10 fights into boxing. And then after that, come over to mixed martial arts. And, I know that certain people feel a certain way, but I tell you, don't underestimate these guys, because when they have their mind made up, it just seems like that they're able to, fulfill their destiny. And so to me, it's something that I think that if they want to make it happen, we would love to do something with them and put them in some big fights and really test them out.
Yeah, and maybe this is kicking the can a little too far down the road in terms of this question, but I'm curious, like, if he did come over to MMA, is the trickiest part like matchmaking? Because I'm sure, he doesn't come cheap. You want to maximize the platform and all those things, like to find an opponent that also brings a good B side and then also maybe is on his level to a degree competitively. Is that like one of the trickier things about dealing with someone like that?
Yeah, I think that it's matchmaking is always important, right? And it's always going to be a key. But I think by the time he gets over to MMA and ready to fight, I think that he'll be ready to compete at a pretty high level. because it's probably another year of boxing, another year of fighting in boxing fights. If he's talking about going to AKA, I'm sure he's going to go there, 6-8 months before he puts his first fight on in MMA. And he'll be training with those guys down there in the gym in San Jose that are just, these guys are killers, all of them. So to me, it's, he's making all the right steps. And, we'll see what happens.
Yep, definitely going to be something interesting to monitor. And I guess that leads me into just a general question on how you're looking at like free agency and stuff going into 2022. I know, the theme of this interview, if anything, is being you're very happy with your roster and what you guys currently have right now. And, we've been talking for over 40 minutes about all the great fights you have coming up and all the interesting names and stuff. But has the philosophy changed at all? I mean, I know you kind of showed not too much interest in Kevin Lee. He went elsewhere when he was available semi-recently. What's kind of the philosophy in terms of that side of the game?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think some fighters fit for us, and some fighters, we're kind of lukewarm, whatever. And then some fighters we're really going to go after. And so to me, it's just, every situation is different. And so to me, I feel like if you're a fighter and you're a free agent and you're, doing everything you're supposed to do, and you're out there and you're tearing it up, and you're a free agent, then come give us a call. And that's how I feel, because we'll have room for you. If you're a free agent. So to me, we're still looking for the best fighters in the world. Most of them. And sometimes there's a fit, sometimes there's not a fit, and it's something we'll at least have a conversation. Because if you're an athlete and you're fighting for any league, let's say, why wouldn't you get to free agency and start shopping around? That's how you're going to get paid. The biggest payday is going to free agency. So to me, that I think that more fighters should do it, and I think that I think we're seeing a little bit of it, and I think that there'll be more and more as time moves forward.
Yep, couldn't agree more. It seems like the game is kind of changing a lot right before our eyes over these past couple of years and going forward. So, last one before I get you out here, Scott. Fedor Emelianenko saved the big one for last. Obviously, it seems like you're planning the retirement send off. He had the great moment in Russia against Tim Johnson, incredible knockout. What's kind of the feel on the retirement fight? Have you guys started talking to him about potential opponents, dates, anything like that for the big send off?
I'd say we started talking about dates. We haven't talked about opponents. We said that we'd revisit that in the beginning of January, so he could get through the holidays, and we could get through the holidays. But we'll start revisiting that with Fedor. I want to say 2 weeks into January, and then the date we're talking about summertime. Obviously, we're talking about in Moscow. The fight was very well received. He's such a big star there. It's unbelievable, and his performance was really like, I just felt this is like 1997, 98 all over again, man. Just that three punch combination he hit him with was like a Fedor in his 20s. I mean, he just looked so great, and he was so fit and in such great shape. And the one thing about him is, I noticed he was a little bit more serious about this fight. And I think it's because he was in Russia, and this is on Russian television, but press conference, weigh-ins, things like, he just seemed a little bit more serious. Even when I was dealing with him, he's usually a bit more lighthearted, but man, I tell you, he was in the zone. He was in the zone for this fight, and I think he wanted to show he could still do it in front of his fans, in front of his countrymen, and he did it. And the way he did it was just spectacular. So I'm proud of his accomplishments, man. To me, this guy is, such a legend. I mean, what a legend he is in the sport. And to have him in the cage in front of you performing the way he performed was something very special, very magical to watch in person. So, we have one more fight with him. And then, it's something that we're going to really do something really big in Russia. We're already planning now. I might be taking a trip over there in the next 3 weeks to keep the ball rolling, and David Green's jumping on board, and Paulo's helping us over there. We have a team of people working on this next event, and he deserves a king send-off with the career that he's had, and we're going to give it to him.
Can you give any insight on like potentially, I mean, I know he'll probably have some say, like what kind of opponent, like the scenario I just thought of, and I know this is a lot of what ifs and fight have to play out, but if Ryan Bader beats Moldavsky, would you ever consider doing a rematch for the title and give Fedor that opportunity to go out as the heavyweight champion of the world? Or is something, you don't want your champion retiring with the belt or things like that? Is that something you'd even consider?
You know what's funny is I knew you were going to ask that question. And the reason I knew you were going to ask me that question is that's what Fedor asked me. It's like, hey, if Ryan beats Moldavsky, I want to fight Ryan Bader. That's what he said. And I said, well, let's just talk about it. And I'll give you some other possibilities in the beginning of January. And let's see how the fight unwinds. And then, we'll make a business decision, Fedor. How about that? And he said, okay. And that was it.
Love it. I mean, obviously, half of him probably wants his teammate to win and become the champion, but I'm sure that moment is kind of some incredible storybook stuff if that could all come together. But the fact that he said that kind of, I think, shows where his mindset is at, right? I think some people thought maybe you guys would give him an easier fight than Tim Johnson, and he wanted the top guy.
Yeah, he did. He wanted a guy that's dangerous, that's still relevant, that can still fight at the top, 5 or 8 or whatever Tim was at the time. And he did what he had to do. He performed at a super high level, and you saw the fight, man. He looked fantastic, and the place went nuts. And it was just really a special night. And this is something Fedor and I talked about since the Strikeforce days. He'd always say to me, Scott, come to Russia. I'm like, let's take a beat on that. Let me just figure out Strikeforce first, and then when we signed in for Bellator, come to Russia. And I'm so glad we went because it's an amazing city, and we just had such a great time there. And but everywhere you went, Fedor, everybody knows Fedor, man. He's like a legend, And so to me, the legend continues, and we'll have something big for him next summer in Russia. And like I said, this is something that's going to be a big send off, and we're gonna do it right.
Awesome, man. Well, I think that's a great way to end it. Unless any last message you want to send to your fans, or to get people excited for this coming year. I think going through this, it's going to be massive fight after massive fight for you guys in 22.
Yeah, I mean, get ready. Fasten your seatbelts because Bellator is locked and loaded, and it starts on the 29th on Showtime with Moldavsky fighting Bader. And it's just going to go on from there. I mean, we're going to have all of our top champions and all of our world champions fighting, and you're going to see some amazing fights in the first half of 22.
Awesome, Scott. Well, I can't thank you enough for the time. I know you took a lot of it today to speak with me, but I think this is great. This is, as I said, pre-interview, this is the 3rd year in a row we've kind of done this end of year thing. So hopefully this is a tradition that can kind of continue on. I think it was a great way to look back at another very successful year for you guys and set the stage for what's to come next year.
Yeah, I'm really excited about, the fights, the company, where we're headed, some of the sponsors we're bringing in, the different international distribution deals that we're doing around the world right now. I mean, this is, definitely a great time for Bellator. So a lot of good things to talk about. And next time I talk to you, we'll probably have a whole different, like not arenas, but whole different subject matters to discuss other than just the fighters and the fight. But, this is a fun time for us, and we're putting a lot of seeds in place right now that we think are going to develop in the next 3 or 4 months. So we're excited, and it's going to be a great year. And next time, I think last time when we did this, I think your Christmas tree was there.
It was. It's actually in the corner around the thing. But I was like, we're past Christmas. I think we did it before Christmas this time. So
I see.
There you go. So next year maybe we'll do it pre-Christmas, and we'll get the tree background in there again.
Yeah. Great. Well,
Awesome.
I tell you, I thank you for your time, and a lot of good stuff ahead, man. Tune in.
All right. Appreciate it, Scott. Thank you so much.